What's going on, everybody?
It is
Monday. So you know what that means. It is time for yet another
Monday
motivation
check. One more time.
Monday motivation
chat. Wait. We usually be on point with it. What's up, y'all? Happy Monday. So, last week we got to chat with Connie Greer, educator, professor, author, advocate. We got to talk a lot about conscious parenting, about the school to jail pipeline, and it was really insightful, really just inspiring to hear her journey, hear her story, on so many different levels of being a mom and seeing, the different ways in which she chose to raise her twin boys, the advocacy that she's doing within the jail system, within the schools to make an impact and kind of try to stop this jail to school pipeline, right? There's so many different layers, so many different facets to it. So that was definitely an amazing chat. Can't wait to talk with her again sometime in the future. And today we have the amazing Jasmine Clemente. She is a spiritual teacher and the owner of Home to My Soul. So I am so excited to learn more about her journey, her story, what she does. I know personally I've been kind of exploring my own spirituality and things like Reiki and energy. And so I'm really excited to see, to hear her insight, hear her journey. I think, is that her there? No, I don't see her. We're trying to connect her, guys. Can we invite someone who's not on? We're trying to connect with Jasmine. You can search here. Oh, there she goes. View. Go.
Hey, Elo.
Hey.
There we go.
Namaste. Hello.
Hello. It is such a pleasure and an honor to chat with you tonight.
Same here. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited. Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I went through a few things. My abuelita passed away about a week ago, and I'm spiritual as it is anyway, but that was another layer on top of my spiritual awareness because I was actually with her as she was passing away. Like I was holding her hand as she took her last breath. So that was something I never would have thought I would have, experienced.
Yeah.
And I did. It's weird. And it's like an honor because I'm the last person that she saw on this plane, like on this earth, and I gave her my blessings to transition over and to not be afraid, and I told her, you're going to be there for me when it's my turn because we all go one day. And I'm like, you got to show me the ropes. So you have to, be comfortable because when it's my turn, I'm going to expect to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's deep.
So deep. So introduce yourself to everyone who's watching and who will watch later. Who are you and what
I'm
do you do?
okay, so I'm Jasmine Clemente. Thank you so much for having me. So I own HomeToMySoul.com. It's a candle company. And I'll show you one of my candles right here. Actually, they're handmade. This is one of my candles here, and I already used this. That's why it's low, but it has like Palo Santo and sage, and I'll
Okay.
burn. I'm also a yoga teacher, and I self-published a book called Living in the Light.
Love it.
There it goes. So now I just burned it. Yeah, burn that sucker.
Love it.
Yeah, so I'm a spiritual teacher, but just to give a little bit of my background, I started years ago, about 20 years ago, as a singer. I was an independent singer, and I love house music, and I know house music is big in Philly too, and I performed out there back in the day.
Nice.
Philly's dope. Philly knows what's up with the house scene, So the Arts Garage, I performed at the
Yeah.
Arts Garage out there. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, be careful.
Nice.
Oh my God. I have a cat, and I have two cats actually. He just jumped up on the. So I was, if you're into house music, house music is spiritual, right? The lyrics are spiritual. There's this saying that says, house music, it's a mind, body, and soul thing, right? It's so if you're really into, So in any case, so I put a few house records out, and if you Google me, that's mostly what pops up is my house music. But it's the club scene. So a lot of things happen in the club scene. A lot of people are into drugs. I myself drank a lot back in the day because I used to get like bottle service, free drinks, yada yada. So in any case, I wrote a book, Living in the Lights. It talks about things that I went through in the house scene and my transition to the holistic wellness spiritual industry, and why I kind of left that scene to come into a new industry. And I still love music. I'm always gonna love music, but I went through a journey, a personal journey, and now I'm a big yogi, and I'm much more conscious now.
Yeah, yeah. So what does it mean to be a spiritual teacher?
That's a good question. It's a term that a lot of people are saying right now. I'm a spiritual teacher. I didn't want to use that term at first, but I think the reason why I'm using it now is because I'm always giving people advice anyway. Even before I was into house music, since I was younger, I was always giving people advice. But so we're all spiritual, right? There's a saying, we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. Not that we're human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual first, right? We all come from the light, then we take physical form. And then, because we take physical form, we forget that we're spiritual first. Because all of this is temporary and it changes, right? You're a baby, then you're an adult, then you're an old person. All of this changes, is all temporary. So being a spiritual teacher is reminding people of their spiritual essence, because a lot of us forgot our spiritual essence because we're absorbing this world to get along, to pay the bills, to survive in this world. So we forget our spiritual nature because we're influenced by all the material that's, in this plane of existence.
Right, right. I love it.
It's pretty deep, I'm talking Matrix stuff, right? Like, you want the blue pill or the red pill?
I guess share from the beginning, like how do you go, like I guess it would share a little bit of your book, right? Like how do you even begin to decide, like, this is who I'm gonna become? How do you even begin the journey?
So the way I began it was actually, like I said, I was a singer, right? And I picked house music specifically because house music is spiritual in nature. So with house music, when I was in that house scene, there were a lot of people in that scene that came from abusive backgrounds, trauma, drug addiction. And you saw that because when they were in the club, it was like, yo, this music is so therapeutic. It's like you're dancing. Dancing is therapeutic in itself. Music is therapeutic. But then it's another level of when you have these rhythms, like these congas and you know, these rhythms that it does something where your spirit is being moved, it's being pulled. So a lot of people that come from broken families or like a broken origin, right? They gravitate towards house music because it's healing. It brings people together. You have people of all nationalities, all races, right? Like house music is big. If you go to Europe, you could go to Spain, to Italy, to Norwegian, to Germany. You can go to the depths of Africa. You can go to Brazil. Like you can go to Asia, to Hong Kong, Japan. Doesn't matter what part of the globe you're at, right? All walks of life love house music, but especially people who are hurting, they gravitate towards house because it's healing. So I always gravitated towards house music, and I was like, this is the genre of music that I want to be in because it's spiritual, and that was, I always felt a spiritual calling. But it's dark, you know, because it's the club scene. You can't get away from drugs in the club scene. It's the nightlife, you know. So I experienced a lot of shit, you know, and then I basically, and I'll tell you, you know, real quick, since you asked me, like, you know, what kind of was like the, I guess, the pivotal moment of when I was like, okay, now I'm really going to be a spiritual teacher. I had a soulmate, someone that I clicked with, and it was actually the first night that I performed one of my first records. The first record was called Free My Spirit. It's on Fusion Records. You can, you know, Google it, it pops up. And I was performing it at this really popular nightclub in Manhattan called Cielo, which is now closed. But it was like Club 54 back in the day. It was like this popular club for today, you know, today's people. So I performed that night. It was a huge thing. And this guy that I met there, I just knew as soon as I looked at him, I had a feeling. I was like, oh my God, this is a soulmate. Like I just knew. And he was a soulmate. We ended up getting engaged. You know, he was a dancer. He was a break dancer, b-boy. And he loved my music. When I performed, he videotaped me and stuff. And we just got really, really close, you know, all those things. He was addicted to drugs. He actually had a coke addiction. I didn't know in the beginning because he hid it from me. And then eventually it all came out. And then he's like, well, everybody does coke. Like, what are you, a fucking virgin? Like, he was like picking on me because I was like, I'm not into that. You know, I drink, you know, I was into my Long Island iced teas and my wine. I almost became a wino. That's another story. A wino can be alcoholic, but I used to drink a lot. But he was into coke, and he downplayed it because a lot of the DJs, a lot of the famous DJs and a lot of famous singers did coke too. So he was like, girl, this is a thing. Like, come on, get with it. So in any case, he ended up passing away. And it wasn't from a drug addiction, but because he did so much drugs and alcohol and so much stuff, his organs had already failed him. So he actually got lung cancer from smoking a lot of cigarettes and smoking cigars. And, you know, he was just a mess. And, you know, he got sick one day, and the sickness just, it wouldn't stop because his organs, his kidneys and all of that just failed him, and he passed away. So after he died, that's kind of like, that was a pivotal moment for me where I was just like, you know, I just really, really, I took a turn, you know. I was already kind of coming out of the house scene because I saw things that I didn't resonate with, but that was like the cherry on top.
Yeah. Woo!
She's taking a big, she's like, oh, this is a lot. Yeah. And that's, I'm giving you like just the, yeah, there's a lot more, but you know, I mean, buy the book. It's all in here.
Where can people find the book?
The book is on Amazon. I self-published it this summer, 2020.
Oh,
nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how do you begin to put pen to paper and bring this whole journey together?
Okay, so I've been writing for a long time too, right? And I kept putting the book to the side. And the reason why I kept putting the book to the side is because I was doing a lot of music. And I remember I would have a manager who would say, well, what's more important to you, publishing a book or having your music out? And I said, well, why can't I do both, right? And he was like, well, you have to focus on one thing. I'm a Gemini. Geminis are like all over the place. You too? So he was like, you know, but I heard that from producers. A lot of people used to tell me like, focus on one thing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I get it because that was what they were mastering, you know. So I'm me, they're them, and they wanted me to, whatever. So in any case, I had wanted to write a book since I was younger because I actually have an abusive background. That's why I was, drawn to house music and also drawn to my soulmate who was abusive. We both came from broken families. My abuse wasn't so much physical, it was more emotional. And that's a whole other, thing. But that has to do with narcissism. There's that's a whole other can of worms. But yeah. I wanted to write a book about what I went through growing up and still pursuing my music, but I just wanted to write about my journey. So I did, and I wrote a lot. I ended up never publishing that book, but I have a book in my computer that is 250 pages that has never come out because I'm afraid of, I'll say one specific relative. I don't want to say relatives, but one specific relative that even though I fictionalized it and I didn't write, it's a memoir based on a true story, I fictionalized it, she'll still know that I'm writing about her and she'll probably never speak to me again, which she has already done before. We already went like 6-7 years without speaking. So I know if I put the book out, she'll never speak to me again. So I'm not ready to put that book out. I don't know if I ever will. Maybe it was just, cathartic or whatever, but I ended up writing after my ex died. I said, okay, instead of writing about my family, I wrote about my journey. This isn't really a memoir. It's a self-help book, but it's like a memoir / self-help book. But I left things about my family out. Like there's a little bit about my family in there, but not that much. You know what I mean? So I really kept it more like me, and then my ex is in there. So did that. And I will be writing books. This is the first one, and I like writing books because it's therapeutic for me. And not only is it therapeutic for me, but I know, and we all know this, everyone's story is similar to someone else's story. Mm-hmm. There's always somebody that can learn from your story. So I definitely want to write more. This is just one. Now I know how to write a book. Now I know that I can write more, and as a yoga teacher and as a spiritual teacher, now I can write these books. I have that following in the spiritual community, and I can write different books on different things, but all under the same umbrella of basically healing yourself.
Yeah. What's the name of the book again? Someone asked. Living in Light or In Your Light?
Yeah. Living in the Light, a guide to discovering and manifesting your life purpose.
And you can find it on Amazon.
Yeah, if they put Living in the Lights and then my name, Jasmine Clemente. So, which is really cool. When I first thought of the name, nobody had, I didn't see the book, the title. And then all of a sudden I put the book out and I was like, damn, somebody else put a book out called Living in the Light, like a month or two right before I did. But what's funny is that the other book, Living in the Light, is by a very famous self-help person.
People find yours.
Yeah, it's so weird. So I'm like, wow, we're on the same frequency. So I'm like, okay, cool. But it's cool because if you put Living in the Light, I'm sure hers will come up first. Fine, whatever. But mine will come up too. And it's still good because I'm in that zone. You know what I mean?
Yes. We're going to pop up on page 1, baby. Yes.
That's so dope. Is I know for me, just like in the daily grind, it's easy to, I guess, get overwhelmed or forget about things. So I know for me, writing helps in regards to just like maintaining some sort of clarity and sanity. So like you said, even if you never published that other book, but it definitely was that for you, in regards to just that therapeutic, being able to kind of getting things on paper and out of your heart,
Yeah, and the other thing too is that when you write, you become a better writer. So even if you don't put something out, by the time you do put something out, you've been writing for so long that your writing got better. So there's that aspect of it. And then the other aspect is whatever you write, never throw it out, because you might use, like what I'm thinking is using pieces of some of the stuff that I wrote, and I can use them as short stories for something else. So let's say somebody has an anthology, like a book of like 10 different stories by 10 different women or something like that. I could take like a piece from the book that I wrote, even though I'm not going to publish it. I could take a piece, like maybe 10 or 20 pages, and put that in
Right.
an anthology. I can also put it towards an article. Like, you know, there's all these websites that are out, and I can take some of the stuff that I wrote and I could just change it a little bit, and I can also publish it in a magazine, like, you know what I mean, in a, like, as an opinion piece. Or because there's some of these magazines have, like, you know how a person may write about their true story, like 5 pages long or 10 pages or whatever, depending on the magazine. So never get rid of your writing, because you don't know what you can transform it and use it for, you know.
So true. Yeah, that's so true. What was something unexpected that came once you put the book out into the universe, into the world?
Um, well, so relatives bought it, friends bought. So okay, the best part was like when people you don't know buy it, you know, because it's cool when people you know support you and buy it, but when people you don't know buy it and then they take a picture with it and they email you and they say, I got your book, and they take a picture and they send it, that's like really cool. So I'm like, okay, you know, I hope that and you know, and I've gotten good reviews, you know, like I've had people tell me like, hey, it's super positive. The other thing too is that it's not like a thick book, it's pretty thin, so it's an easy read. You can read this in a day. Like, it's
Okay.
not, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's really simple. So like if you're like somebody read it and they were at a pool and they read it like in the summertime, they would just buy a pool, hanging out, taking a suntan, and they read the whole thing. And they were like, this is so good, you know, blase blase. So that's really cool that, you know, I wrote a book that is simple, that anybody, you know, even if you're not into reading that much because you're more visual, and you like,
Yeah.
I used to read a lot more books than I do now. I'm so used to like watching YouTube and Netflix and stuff like that. So, you know, it's good for people who don't read that much because they're more into visual. They can read this in a day, and it's like it's not gonna take too much time, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. What else besides being a yoga teacher? Like, what are some other practices or philosophies that you have as a spiritual teacher?
So I'm into a lot of different spiritual religions. Yoga is just the one that I teach, but I've always been into Kabbalism. I've been a little bit into Judaism, and Judaism and Kabbalism are both connected. And
Okay.
also, there's the seven Hermetic principles. I don't know if you've heard of the seven Hermetic principles, but there's the Kabbalah, Kabbalion, and they sound the same, but they're two different books. So the
Mhm.
Kabbalion it talks about the seven Hermetic principles, which is ancient Egyptian philosophy. So this goes all the way back to Egypt. I'm also into numerology. Numerology is big with ancient Egypt, um, Egyptian philosophy, even in the Bible. If you're into the Bible, they talk about numbers as well. So numerology is big in Judaism. As you know, Judaism and Christianity are connected as well. So numerology, what they call it, is the science of the soul.
Mm.
Mathematics, I know. Like if you take someone's birthday, right? There's a whole personality that goes with the birthday. Um,
Mm.
Dates. There's a big thing when it comes to dates, like anniversary dates, birthdays. They're rituals. You know, there's a reason why when it's your birthday, you blow out the candles. The candles in itself is magic. Then it's how you make a wish, right? So all these things
Mm.
are rituals. If you are into like, you know, Judaism, for example, they're big on the candles. Hanukkah, I believe it's 7 days of Hanukkah, and each day is a different lights, right? So it's like the festival of lights. India, same thing. You know, Diwali is the festival of lights. So in every
Mm.
religion, almost in every culture, they talk about lights, rituals, numbers, you know, a deity, a savior, you know, a devil, a god, good, bad, yin, yang. So all these religions are pretty similar. So I study a lot of different religions, right? The seven Hermetic principles is one of the most ancient because it goes back to Egypt. So with the seven Hermetic principles, it's basically like, so there's rules and there's principles. Rules were meant to be broken. Principles last forever. So a
Mm.
rule will break because a rule changes with the times. So a
Right.
rule works at one, you know, like if you look at the Quran, for example, you know, the Quran, or however you want to, you know, they like women, for example, wore the hijabs, and they wore the you know, they covered themselves. But part of the reason why they covered themselves is for two reasons. One is because back then there was a lot of war that happened. So, okay, so let me try to get my thoughts together. So basically, most of the men went to war, right? It wasn't women; it was men who went to war, and then the men who died, they left their women behind who were widows, and they had children. So now they had children, and they're like, well, who's going to take care of me now, right? Because women didn't work back then; it was only men that worked. So a man was allowed to have more than one wife. But the reason why the man was allowed to have more than one wife is because so many women became widows that the law was that you can marry a second wife or a third wife or a fourth wife if you can afford it to take them in with their children. So now you have a second wife because who's going to take care of her? She'll be poor, and she'll die, right? So in order to keep the economy afloat, they were allowed to marry a second wife and a third wife and so on and so forth. Then the reason why they covered themselves was part of it was to keep themselves safe because it was barbaric back then. And if a man was feeling a certain way, he would go and rape her. So they covered themselves so the man wouldn't rape them, right? So they wouldn't get raped because they didn't have that much protection because a lot of them were dying in the war. And then also because they lived in the Middle East, there was a lot of sand, sandstorms. So in order to cover their face from the sandstorms, they covered themselves, and that's what it was. So that's back then. Nowadays, that's not going to work, right? You don't have to cover yourself if you're not in an environment where there's sandstorms, and if you're not in an environment where all these men are dying, so you don't have to have a second, third, or fourth wife. You know what I mean? It's different now. So rules were meant to be broken because rules work when they're meant to work, and then when things change, the rules change. But principles are something that never die. Principles are universal laws. So the seven hermetic principles are spiritual laws that never change. Now, the way our government or the way political things, they'll say this is a law, but it's not really a law. It's a rule. But it's a rule that was put into government, which they say is a law, but it's not really a law. It's still a rule. That's why laws change, because they're rules.
That makes so much sense. Could you run through the 7 principles real quick? I know we don't got enough time to explain each of them, but could you list them?
Let me see. I have the book there, but if I can remember them, I know it's the law of rhythm and vibration, right? So energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just changes. So depending on your rhythm, that kind of goes with the law of attraction. It's a little similar. Rhythm is always moving. Things are always constantly moving. Nothing stops. If it stops, it's dead. And there's really no such thing as death. It just changes like a butterfly. So there's the law of rhythm and movement. There's the law of gender. Gender meaning that there's masculine and feminine. Not saying that there has to be like a physical man and a physical woman, but meaning that there is masculine energy and there is feminine energy, and that kind of is like the yin and the yang, right? There's masculine, which is like positive and it comes out, and then there's feminine, which is inside. So it's like the dual opposites. So there's masculine energy and feminine energy, which also coincides with polar opposites. There's always going to be an opposite point to something else, like no matter. So there's always going to be an opposite version of something. So there's the law of polarity. I have the book. If you want me to get it real quick, I can pull it out of my shelf. If that, because
Sure.
I forget. You want me to get it?
Yeah, sure.
Give me 1 second. Hold on. Okay, got it. My cat is like, Mom, what are you doing? All right, so this is the book, right? The Kabbalion. And there's other books.
Okay.
There's other books, but the original one is not even around.
Okay,
because
wow.
These original books, you can't even, they're secret. They're like hiding for reasons or whatever, because I guess the way I look at it, I think that, there's like secret societies, right? I believe the reason why there are secret societies is because if people knew how much power they really had, remember, there's always going to be good and bad. And that's a law. That's a spiritual law, that there's always an opposite. So if you have negative out there, a negative force, right? Call it the devil, or you could call it whatever you want. And people have free will. Since people have free will, they could choose wrong if they want to. So now if we all knew that we were magicians, like if you knew that you could telepathically read someone's mind, and you don't even need the cell phone to call someone and tell them how you feel, but you could literally just go in your mind, and you can read their thoughts, and you can impress your thoughts into their thoughts, right? Let's say reality, which I believe it is. Imagine someone with bad intentions. That there's people right now who manipulate people who don't have that power, right? There's people that will call you on the phone. How many friends have you had, or whoever, or someone who was toxic who tried to manipulate you, right? We've all known people like that, whether it's a boss or a coworker or a friend or whatever. So if we know people who don't have these magical powers or whatever, that manipulate, lie, steal, cheat, do all these things, imagine if we did have this kind of power, where we could use it, where I could telepathically read your thoughts, impress my thoughts into you, or pick up a broom without having to touch it, but just go doop, and I pick up the broom and start sweeping. I can also pick up a knife without having to touch it. So if I want to kill you, right, and you're on the other side of the room and you're trying to hide, but I'm like, they don't even need to be next to me. I could just literally pick up the knife with my mind and stab them, right? So I think the reason why there are, a lot of these books about magic and about numbers and about, ancient Egyptian philosophy, I think the reason why a lot of these things are kept hidden is because if we access that power, there are people who would misuse their power. Because there's people who misuse their power now in corporate settings.
Right.
There's people who misuse their power on the streets. They take a gun out and they just start shooting because they're angry. So if we do this on a small scale, imagine on a larger scale. So I believe that's the reason why there's so much control. We got to control these people, because just in case it gets out of hand.
Right.
That's why I think. So, but in any case, so this is like basically, I don't want to call it a knockoff. It's not that it's a knockoff, but it's like a watered down version of the real books. So those books are hidden. Don't ask me where they are. But.
You mean you didn't find your magic powers yet?
What?
You didn't find your magic powers yet to locate them?
I know, right? So here are the 7 ones. Okay, so there's mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. Want to see 7? Okay. I'm going to read this little thing to you so it gives you an idea.
Okay.
I like this a lot. It's just like one sentence. It says, the lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. I'm going to read that again, and then I'll break it down and explain it. I think this shit is dope. It says, the lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. So what that means to me, the lips of wisdom are closed, is that the wise ones sometimes are quiet. They don't say anything, except to the ears of understanding. Meaning, if I know that you can comprehend what I'm going to say and not misuse it or abuse it, but understand it, then I will tell you. But if I don't think you're going to get it, I'm going to stay quiet. A fool will keep on talking, even though they know you don't get it. They'll still try to convince you. They'll argue their point, and they'll go back and forth. But a wise person conserves their energy and says, why am I even going to tell this person or tell these people something that I know they're not going to understand? I'll just keep it quiet and preserve my energy, which is also another reason why they say the people who seek the knowledge will find it. Seeking ye shall find. I don't have to come to you and teach you something that you may not be ready to learn, right? So I'll stay quiet. If you want to learn, you'll come find me and I'll be there, right? Not meaning me, Jasmine Clemente, but just meaning, in general. That's why they say seeking ye shall find. If you want to find something, you will, and it will be there. But there's no reason for anyone who is a wise old teacher or sage or whatever to come find people and start educating you, because why?
Right. Right. Have you had clients come to you like as they're coming to you for answers or for like and they're awakening, but then you come to realize that they really aren't ready?
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody wrote something. What are some ways we can tap into this power and raise our frequency so we can use this power to? How did that pop up?
Oh,
Oh,
someone
you
asked
just
a question.
opened
I
it.
just opened it.
Let me answer your question first. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So I do readings as well. I do tarot card readings, right? And when I do tarot card readings, I call them healing tarot sessions, like tarot healing sessions, because I don't tell a person, oh, this is going to happen. You're going to have a baby at this age and you're going to get married and so on and so forth. I basically use the cards and my intuition to read a message that they need. So as a spiritual teacher, as someone who's giving them a tarot card reading or a Reiki session or teaching them yoga or guiding meditation, it's also my responsibility to give them the messages that I know that they can hear in a way that I can articulate it for them where it's also gentle. If someone is not ready to hear something, let's say it's like negative or whatever, I'm not going to tell them something that I know may hurt their feelings, right? So
Mm.
I don't do that. And also, I'll tell someone if I feel like they're getting too attached, because there are people that are really, really hurting, and I'm sure you know this too, it's like a moth to a flame. When a person is really, really broken and they see the light, they want more and more of you. And that's not the goal, right? The goal is for you to be independent on your own. So I can give you the tools for you to help yourself. But if I see that you're not really using those tools and you keep coming back to me more and more, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to make myself unavailable, because I don't want someone to be dependent on me for two reasons. It's not going to serve you, and it's not going to serve me either, because you're draining me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I learned that lesson with my ex who passed away, because, he was my soulmate. And one of the lessons that he taught me as a soulmate was we can love people, right? And be there for them, but we can't carry them. So he was very traumatized. He was abused growing up. He was a lost soul. And I still love him to this day. I still talk to him. And I know that he watches me as an angel. Like, I know that he does. But at the same time, that was his journey, and I couldn't carry him. And me staying with him as long as I did, it affected me a lot. And I know that I could have went even further in my career or in my path had I not been so focused on him. I was distracted. So the same way a boyfriend can distract you or a relative can distract you, a client can distract you as well. It doesn't matter what label it is. If a person is filled with a lot of darkness, they can distract you. And it doesn't make any sense for two people to drown.
Right. 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 Love it. So what was her question? What are some ways we can tap into this power and raise our frequency so we can use this power to heal?
She said to heal others.
Oh, to heal others.
Well, what works for me, and a lot of other spiritual teachers will agree with me and they say the same thing, is cutting cords, making time for yourself. Because we are all powerful, right? It's not something that we're grabbing. It's something that we're stimulating within ourselves. So the only reason, in my opinion, that we don't have our frequencies raised as high as we should is because we've been distracted by things in the world, whether it's been too much materialism, other people that are toxic, violence on TV, violence in the music, all these different things. So it's about silencing the noise, cutting cords. Spending a lot of time alone is actually a good thing, because in that aloneness is where you can hear your spirit. Your spirit, our spirit, is healthy. It is whole. What isn't whole and what is broken and split is things within the personality that has adapted things from this world. But once we clear all that clutter out and just cut cords and kind of, you know, make time for meditation, make time for yourself, then you can hear your spirit, your intuition. That intuition is always whole. It's always perfect. It's always beautiful. It's always healthy. It will guide you. That GPS, that spiritual GPS, that intuition. But you can't hear that intuition if you hear too much chatter in your mind because of talking to people all day and being at work and being at school and all these things. So really taking time for yourself, being alone, and then hanging out with your friends and going to work and doing all that stuff. But you have to carve out time. That me time is so, so crucial. That me time. Take a bubble bath, go to the park, go to the beach by yourself. You have to be your own best friend. And that's like the best way. It starts there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. What is some advice that you might have for people that take the me time, take the time to really hear what's within them, and they kind of, you know how you spoke about the mouth of the wise being closed, because others not really understanding, and that can be exhausting. And for people that feel like they open up to other individuals, and there's just this, like, they feel like they're like on a different plane. They feel almost insane because people just don't understand them, and they decide to kind of stay within themselves. Like, what are some things that you kind of like try to help with that essence? Because sometimes people can be made to feel that if they stay within themselves, that it's almost like a negative thing, you know?
Right. That's a really, really great observation. What I will say is what I was picking up as you were talking was for people not to take things personally. So I think, you know, sometimes people connect with other people because they get their sense of confidence through other people, or their sense of validation from other people, right? The sense of community. When you have a powerful community of people together, you form like this love and this bond. But being alone is important because you're only as strong as your weakest link, even within the community, even within a team. A team is as strong as its weakest link. How will you know how weak you are if you don't spend time alone? So spending time alone gives you that individual voice, so that way you know where your place lies within the team, or within the community, within the family, within the group dynamic. So within the group dynamic, you still have to have your own opinion and your own North Star is what I want to say, right? We all have, so we have soul tribes, right? But even within those soul tribes, we all have a unique mission. We all have a unique North Star, just like we all have a name. Like everyone has a different name. We're not all called the same name. Even if we all have the same last name, that same last name kind of shows that we're all a part of the same family, like we're all a part of the same group. But we all each have a specific first name. So that first is what this individual makes us different. So it's really important to, you know, instead of a person feeling like, hey, well, I don't want to feel like I'm being standoffish because I want some time to myself. No, it's not, because a mountain is a mountain and a tree is a tree. And, you know, a plant is a plant, a flower is a flower, everything you call it by its name. You got to go deep within yourself and be your own best friend. So when you do come back out to hang out with the group or with the community, you know what role you play. You know how you can serve better. And you can also see how other people are serving you. So you can see clearly, is this adding to my life or is this taking away? Because sometimes we can't really see clearly who's positive and who's negative for us because we spend so much time with them and we get lost in translation. So taking time away is not a negative thing, it's a positive thing. And never take things personally for how things change, you know, how relationships change. Never take it personally.
Mm-hmm.
Got it, got it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that made sense. Did it?
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense.
Because I threw a lot out there.
No, like I've had my own like experiences in life, and you know, one of the biggest things that's always been difficult for me from a very young age was speaking through my own emotions and like kind of like whatever my thoughts and my feelings are. and trying to manifest that in words because just through history and just through just things with family and stuff, like I've been made to feel like I was wrong or I was like, tripping or crazy or something. So it's like by default, I'm just like, I'm not gonna talk to people. Like I just like
But
I like there's no reason for me like why am I gonna waste my time trying to explain this to you? Like I know who I am and I know how I feel and it's just like you get it, you don't, you don't. And sometimes it can suck because it almost feels like it sets you like as this little lone wolf or something like that. But it is very exhausting trying to put people in a position to understand you, because
they're not your
like
people.
nobody can understand me better than me.
But they're not your people, because see, that's why when you were talking before, the first thing that came up to me was not to take things personal. That's what I felt. And then you just told me that sometimes you feel like it's exhausting to talk to someone and tell them how you feel because they may not get it. And you're like, why am I going to waste my time? And I was feeling that someone made you feel a certain way. So that's why I said, don't take it personal and understand that, when I say they're not your people, what I mean by that is sometimes you can have a soul tribe, right? And you can grow out of that soul tribe too. So soul tribe doesn't mean, oh my God, it's our soul tribe. So till the day we die, we're going to be like a soul family. No, you can have soulmates and soul tribes that maybe for 10 years, you're a soul tribe, right? And then all of a sudden you just break away from it. You branch off. That can happen. And then you'll meet a new soul tribe. So when I say they're not your people, what I mean by that is they may not be your people anymore. Like maybe you grew out of them. You know what I mean? And that's like, don't take anything personal. And no one's better than anybody, right? It's so even when you grow out of something, it doesn't mean you grew up and on and they're still down here. That's not what that means, because I learn shit every day. Like we're always learning, and sometimes we think we're up here and we're actually down there when we thought we were up here. So we learn and we're like, oh my God, I thought that and I guess I was wrong. That happens too. All it means is you're growing out, meaning that it's just you're just growing away from it. That's all it is. And you have to respect your journey. You have to respect where you are. If you deny where you are to please someone else, you stunt your own growth. So you have your own North Star. And even if you're a lone wolf for a while, you may not be a lone wolf forever. You might just be a lone wolf for that time period because you're around people that are not your people. Like it's not your soul. You're just growing out of it. So until you do gravitate towards your group, you're going to feel like a lone wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? So that happens. Yeah. Like when you're around the right people, it feels right. You know what I'm saying? I could tell that you're around people where you feel like it's wrong. I feel like I could feel it. Like I feel like you're like, I don't know, something, you know what I mean? But just respect the journey, respect the growth,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Love it. So through all of your journey, even recently, you've been through trials and tribulations. And so if you want to wrap up with our...
I want to know about the yoga though.
Oh, the yoga?
Yeah, like how did you get into yoga?
So
That's something that I've just been trying to do, and I'm working on my downward dog. I'm real tight. I gotta get my flexibility down. I just like watch people do it. I'm just like, how are your feet flat on the floor? Like, okay, I'm on my tiptoes doing this downward dog. It's tight, gotta be loose.
right? So everybody's body is different. So just because one person can do a pose in a certain way, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily the right pose. It's just that her or his body, maybe he's flat-footed, for example. Another person may have an arch on their foot and they can't, when they have their foot on the floor, it's not going to be the same as the other person whose foot is on the floor. So even when a yoga teacher is teaching you certain poses and you're doing it right and you're trying as hard as you can, everyone's body is still literally different, right? We're all different shapes and sizes. Some are taller, shorter, big bones, small bone, fragile, all those differences. So everybody does poses differently. Never ever compare how you do a pose to someone else. That's number one. Number two, yes, I'm a yoga teacher, but there's like a million different styles of yoga, and I can't pull my body in a pretzel either. So the style of yoga that I teach is yin yoga and restorative yoga. Those are more calmer paces of yoga. I don't do
Okay.
like I can do vinyasa in a Iyengar, but that's not what I want to teach because those I still have to learn too. It's much more invigorating and fast paced, and it's a little bit harder. Like you sweat more. The type of yoga that I teach is more calming. So with Yin yoga, for example, instead of doing like 50 poses in a class, you do like 7 to 9 poses. That's it. So
Hmm.
it's simpler because you're not doing as many poses. You're not jumping back and forth, from pose to pose. So you do 7 to 9 poses, but when you do a pose, you hold it for 2 to 5 minutes each pose.
Oh,
So if let's say I'm doing a pose like this, right? Like an easy pose. You have to keep your arms up there for 5 minutes. So even though this may seem simple for you to do, keep holding your arms up there for 5 minutes and watch you get tired.
right.
Right? So it's like that kind of yoga. So, this isn't a pose, but I'm just giving you an example because I'm sitting down. So with yin yoga, all the poses are done on the floor. So you're not standing up, you don't have your leg like lifted over your thing and doing crazy stuff. You're always sitting on the floor or
Okay.
laying down. So like if you're laying down on the floor and you have your legs pulled up or something, you have to hold those legs for 2 to 10 minutes. It depends on what level you are and what the teacher is saying. The minimum is 2 minutes that you're holding it for. That's for basic beginners. The more
Wow.
advanced level, you hold it 10 minutes or even 20 minutes you can hold it for.
Oh wow.
Is there intro to beginner like in 1 minute?
Well, I'm teaching beginners because I'm a new teacher myself. I've been doing yoga for years, but I'm a new teacher myself, so I'm not teaching anything crazy. I'm teaching beginner stuff. So it's yin yoga. It'll be like when I do poses, I hold them for 2 minutes to 4 minutes max. Max.
Okay.
Because believe me, even though they're easy poses, when you hold them like that for a couple of minutes, you do get tired and you do feel it. It's a good
So who said it? You have a class on Thursday. Oh,
Cynthia said
Cynthia
that.
said you have a class on Thursday. How do people attend your
Yeah,
class?
but I'm gonna be there.
send me a DM and I'll send you the Zoom link. So it's a
Okay.
Zoom link. It's at 7 o'clock on Thursday night. And just have your yoga mat. If you don't have a yoga mat, you can have a blanket, and that's fine.
I got my yoga mat ready. I'm good to go. I'm ready.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And if you have Palo Santo, sage, I always tell people to burn that because it just gets you in the mood since we're not at an actual yoga
I have
studio.
mine right here.
Yeah, oh my God, I have mine too. And I forgot to burn it. I've forgotten to burn it, but yeah, so I like being in the studio, but since everything is virtual, I try to make it as as nice as possible. So I tell people, if you have Palo Santo, burn your sage, your Palo Santo, light a candle. I play like Reiki music in the background, and you can hear
Mhm.
it. So I do that. I don't, I wouldn't recommend anyone playing their music and then it contradicts what I'm playing because I play it pretty loud so you can
Okay.
hear. I also do guided meditations. And when I do that, I play my meditation music and my yoga music, and I pick really nice ones. So they're really cool. I'm a musician, so I have to play music.
Is the meditation part of your class as well, or is that the
I do, yeah. In
yeah.
the beginning, yeah.
Well, we will be there on Thursday.
Send me a DM, and when you
Yes.
send me your email address because I have to
Okay.
send you the link on the email.
Okay, for sure. So for all those that are interested in attending your class, they just DM you.
Yeah, DM me or send me a request on Facebook. I do have it on my website, hometoMySoul.com. But for now, just send me a DM because I'm always updating my website, and just send me
Gotcha.
a message and I'll, it's you stuff. Oh, it's happening.
Okay.
My friend, see, it says KT Black Unicorn. That's what
Yes.
shout out
Thank
for
you.
I didn't get to see all the other people that were on, so I couldn't give shout outs. But what's up, Tally?
That's awesome. So, as we start to wrap it up, this has been such a dope conversation. What is one? I usually say one word, but it could be a small phrase or just one piece of advice that you can give to people in regards to how they should kill the day every day.
Love. Love, 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 love. And that's a whole conversation in itself. Like there's selfish love and there's selfless love. They truly go together. The more your cup is full, the more it overflows. So in order to be unselfish, you have to be selfish, if that makes sense. Because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
The more you have to give. And the generosity is just like, here, take it. Yes, yes, I love you. I love you. But, you know, a person, like, again, you know, and this goes back to I don't want to talk too much about my ex, but like a person who's broken, for example, right? They can love you, but matter of fact, I'm not even going to talk about him. Let's talk about Whitney Houston for a second. I bring her up, right? I love Whitney. Her voice was beautiful. My God, such a beautiful spirit and woman. She was with Bobby Brown. Okay, so imagine those two trying to love each other so much, right? But if one person is broken as sincerely as they love you, and I know that they loved each other sincerely because I felt it, they still broke each other, right? So, but a healthy person who loves you, right? It feels better. It's expansive. It adds, it grows. So the more your cup is full with self-love, where you're treating yourself right, you know, you're keeping yourself healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, the more you can love someone else because you're loving them the right way.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
A lot of sense.
Love it. Thank you so much. So much.
Thank
Oh
you.
my God. I'm gonna definitely watch this one again.
I'm looking forward to Thursday. I'm gonna be like,
So you know what? I saw her show when she did the Flaco Coquito, right? When you had her on, and I was like, I liked your conversation. I was like, I would like to be on their show. So we spoke about it, and then she did the introduction. But I like how you guys do this organic conversation with people. I think it's so refreshing to do an interview like this instead of like doing the basic questions that every interview, you know, gives you. Like, so you know, it's like, okay, fine, you have to ask those questions, but when you just when you have like this good conversation, like more stuff comes out, and that's a real interview. It's really just chilling and getting to know people, right? Because we're people.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was the whole purpose of it. It was just like when you try to plan things out, you have the opportunity to miss things because you're just so focused on the next question or the next this or the next that. It's just like when you just come in with no script and just have a conversation and talk, and then you just naturally, oh, really, that's dope. Well, how do you do this, and then how does it go? And it just kind of naturally flows. Because honestly, we could probably be on here for another hour or so, you know. But just to respect the time of yours and everybody else's, you know, we try to keep it within a certain time frame. But yeah, that's always been the concept of Money Motivation Chats, and just like how you mentioned earlier in regards to your book, like there's somebody out there that's going to be affected, right? You know, we've had some pretty great comments that have been posting in the chat, which is amazing. And for those that haven't even watched it yet, that will watch it later on, you know, you never know. So that's why it's like trying to bring in a variety of people, like just people that are positive individuals that are, you know, from all different types of walks of life, because that's how we learn, you know?
Right.
I love it. I love it. Like, keep doing it the way you do it. I'll bring you people too. Like, I just love how you guys do it. Like, this is how an interview should be done. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that affirmation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So guys, as you know, every Monday, 9 o'clock, we'll see you next Monday. And until then, remember, kill the day every day.
Thanks so much, Jazz.